sorry it's been a while. I've been pretty busy. It's like Christmas time around here. And just been out of town. Lots of other stuff going on. So, but back to it. Where we left off last time, we had I done a lot of the series that Wes Ingerman said to go through about the kind of troubleshooting all the different things that we that he suggested that we address as we go through the determining what was going on with the car and why it was running so rich. Made a bunch of adjustments, and I wanted to show, and I realized I left off before we actually looked at any sort of the results. It's still not running great, but there's two problems that we know of. The first one we identified in the first episode, I believe, and we found out that one of the cylinders, the compression was low. We did the wet compression test, we dripped oil down there, we did all that. It didn't solve it, so that probably means that there's something wrong in the head. So we'll take the valve cover off today and we'll take a look to see what's going on there. But the other thing that we know is wrong is that we know that the pump needs to be refurbished. It's going to be a little bit weird. It's going to act weird. It's not going to do the things that we want it to do, perform as well as it does, because it just isn't going to, it's not up to snuff. It needs to be refurbished. We know that. So let's start with taking out the plugs and let's look at them just to see if we fixed our running super rich problem. Okay. All right. Let's take a look. Let's just. They're all probably going to be about the same. I know that the first one was always seemed to be the richest. Ah! You hit your finger right on that thing, kind of every single time, right on the knuckle. Ah, there we go. All right, see if you can see that. That is looking so much better. Okay, so what we did is, and you can look at the other episodes, what we did. Oh man, I'm super happy with that. That is not nearly as bad as it was. We'll go look through all of them just to be sure, but what we did was we checked the timing and then the calibration of the Spica pump, and then links of the shaft rod ends, the connecting shafts and the ends on them, and made sure that those are right in the right spot. What else did we do? I think that's pretty much it. What we definitely looked at, but that seemed to have solved our richness problem, which is good. Hopefully, knock on wood. Hopefully, I'm not speaking too soon. Let's look at this guy. Yep, same. Looking pretty good. It's considerably better than it was starting. The top was just completely black, and this is run for a little while. I ran it before I started this too, just to make sure that it wasn't a fluke. So there's some. It's not just been run for just a few seconds. Yep, good. And good. All right. That's excellent. All right. Well, I'm going to put these back on. Next step is we're going to pull the valve cover gasket off and see if we can check to see if there's any valve sticking or any stuff that's up with that. All right. Plug wires out of the way. Have to remove remove this, and this little hose there. What else do we have? We'll have these two guys in the front, and then these 6 big guys here. All right, tools for that. Let's grab this clamp. This is the vacuum line for the brake booster, which is a whole other story. Something I've actually addressed in the past. So the master cylinder here, the seal got so bad that it was pouring oil into the bellows. Well, I don't know, what do you call this? The bellows or the booster housing, so bad that it was actually one of the reasons that we had some problems with the engine. It was actually getting to the point where it had gotten so high that there's a couple people walking by my garage admiring my car. It's always nice.
I could go for that. Beautiful.
Thank you.
We're car buffs.
What year?
It's a 74.
Okay, 74. Okay. Is that like close to the last year?
It was the last. Yeah, it was the last. 74 was the last one, I think.
Okay, that's what I thought.
For the GTV.
Yeah.
They sold the Spider for years and years.
Right,
and years
right. I had
after.
one of those that was older than this, but yeah, this is it's gorgeous.
Gorgeous.
Thank you.
Enjoy.
Yeah, thank you. I will. That's cool. And I didn't even have to pay them. Anyway, so the fluid, I was putting brake fluid, and it just kept pouring in here, and it got to the point where it was so high up in the booster that the vacuum hose that comes in here, that does the vacuum on here, was so high it actually was pulling. It was pulling brake fluid. There was this weird smell and this weird, because you never smell burning brake fluid, right? So it's oil. It's like thin oil, I guess. But anyway, that was weird. Yet another fun little Alfa ownership project there. So anyway, so I'd replaced the master cylinder. It's still the rear brake ones are still leaking up here. The solid brake lines are a gigantic pain to get on and off because there's basically no very little tolerance there. So get this little guy off. And then we can start tackling some of these clean this one up when I take it out. It's got a little bit of rust on the top. I wonder if it's getting sprays a little bit of coolant on there. I've read that you're not supposed to, these are not supposed to go in very tight. They have this rubber or a little, this little seal here, which I probably need to replace at some point. But yeah, these are really easy to, because it's these are actually the nut, right? And the bolt comes straight out. You just don't want to over tighten those. There's not really a lot of reason to have this be super tight in the first place. You know, it's got a gasket on it. It's not, you know, there's not a lot of pressure or anything. That one, stud came out with it. Just have to remember where that one is. That's the one I'm going to want to clean up. Rust on it. All right. This goes out. Okay, and you'll get a $1 if you can guess the size of these guys in the front here. And if you guessed 10 millimeters, you are correct. There goes the nut. Didn't quite reach for it in time. Okay. Should just come right off. Well, the gasket here has been replaced relatively recently, so it's in pretty good shape. Okay, so for those who are not familiar, I don't know why you'd be watching this. It's a lot of oil in here. Don't know if that's right. The chain's nice and tight. That's good to know. But there is quite a bit of Don't know if that's normal. Might be. I don't know enough to know. Anyway, so if you're not familiar, these are double overheads. This is the exhaust side, because it's right above the exhaust, and this is the intake side. It's 4 cylinders. They're just on opposite sides. There's 4 lobes on each cam. Cams are different. They're attached to a big chain, timing chain. Looks to be in pretty good shape. Yeah, so just making sure that these lobes hit I forgot what these called. They're like big metal hockey pucks basically. I just need to see if we can determine anything that's odd. I need to look up to see if there's supposed to be this much oil, this much fluid in the. I mean, it's full to the top. It's like gas and oil. It's probably not good. All right. Well, let me do some research and I'll let you know. Okay. So I think the oil is. I think that's fine. It's not great, but it'll do. I need to change the oil. It does need the. It was running so rich. I think that caused some other issues for a while. So. Okay. Anyway, these look fine. This looks fine. What I'm looking for is if there's any scoring or anything on any of these, any of the lobes or on the tappets. Yeah, I'm just gonna botch it. It's with these little metal pucks. Basically, these are just round little things that sit in the in there, and they move freely. They're in there. This is how the timing, how the spacing is adjusted on these is difficult. It's not as easy with the springs and the like the little you tighten the bolt and everything like in a normal, like a typical overhead cam engine, or even a push rod cam engine or whatever. Well, actually, push rod cam engines, like an LS or whatever, where you basically just have springs in the rockers and the push rod. Those are a lot easier to adjust. These have spacers that sit inside these guys, so it's a lot more difficult to adjust them. But you can when you move the engine around a little bit, you can see if there's any scoring or any sort of marks on any of them. You can kind of they should be able to float. They should be able to move relatively freely in there if they're not being engaged by the lobe of the cam. And these guys, they all look pretty good to me right now. They are moving up and down with them, so that this one is, this lobe is not engaged, and this thing is sticking straight out, which is what you want to see. So the way you can do it is just the way that you can adjust. They can bump to adjust the timing. Look for the timing marks and stuff. Is you basically you can stick it in fourth gear and just kind of move it, move the whole car, and it'll rotate the engine around. It's really difficult to get because you can't just adjust it like that. So we bump it again. Might actually be easier to do if you didn't have the spark plugs in, probably. These guys. And this one, you can see this one's pushing straight down, and this one's going in as well. So we'll just keep bumping it and kind of keep taking looks at it. Bigger garage. Okay. That one's good. 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 Okay. Again. Looking at the lobes, especially where they make contact with looks good. I know that we might just run it a little bit longer. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Before we do anything drastic like take the head off or anything, which is a much bigger pain in the butt, and potentially a huge pain in the butt. What I'm going to do is change the oil, which I need to do anyway. Run it for a little bit longer. Now that we have, the oil, should be able to get good, nice fresh oil in. We will get run it with the better oil in it, then recheck compression, see if that made any sort of difference. If that didn't, then we can take the next step of getting this thing, getting the head swapped out. The other thing I need to do is I need to email Wes back about the Spica pump, tell him what had happened, and report back that it seems to have been remedied, the richness issue. So that's good. And then let's see. Probably won't be able to finish this up today because I don't have an oil filter for this, I believe. I'll have to look that up, make sure if I do or don't. And I don't think you want to see anybody. I think you've seen people change oil before. So I will do that and then come back. But in the meantime, so while that's going on, there's other projects as you can probably imagine. We need to figure out why this is leaking. That's one project. These windshield wipers are about as they're just ludicrous how slow they are. Their engine the motor in there needs to either be rebuilt or fixed or something, because I messed with the linkage. That was didn't help. So we've got to figure that one out. Yeah, eventually I'm gonna have to get the speaker pump off as well, so we can put that in the mail. So there's lots to keep us busy, but for now I'm going to probably just end that here. I know it's kind of a short one, but I'll put the valve cover back on, and then change the oil, and then we can get back and check compression. Maybe I'll just make that as the second part of this. Might be able to pull that off. Might have some time to do that tomorrow. So either way, I think we're done here, except for putting the valve cover back on. And you saw me take it off. It's like that, but the other way around. Okay, so it's been a while. As you can probably tell, I'm dressed a little differently than the last time you saw me. It is ridiculously warm. This is the second weekend of January, and it's really, really warm. So it's like 65 degrees today. So anyway, where we left off, and I said that I was going to change the oil. So change the oil, change the filter. Still running kind of rough. I'll fire it up and let you know. I believe that's probably still because of the pump and the fuel delivery. I think the pump just needs to be fixed. We're on the list with Wes, but that is, it's just a long wait. So in the meantime, we got a couple other projects to keep us busy. But fire it up. I'll let you know what I did, and maybe we'll check the compression again, see if anything changed. I doubt it, but yeah, that's where we are. So let's start it up. See how it did. Okay, so I have not started this, so it is cold. Okay, so it sounds fine here, but this is what I noticed last time. It just completely falls on its face when you open up the. If you do the throttle really slowly. But if you mash your foot down on the throttle, it just instantly dies. So I think it's a fuel pump issue. I'm going to do some more research on that, but for the time being, I think this is probably about as far as we can go with the engine. Hopefully it's something else, and I can work on that. But so we'll just button this episode up, and then I'm going to start probably the next one. There's a couple other projects that I need to do. When I replace the brake master cylinder, it now is leaking all of the brake fluid out somewhere. I think just straight down. But need to find out where that leak is, fix that. The other project, the windshield wiper motor is total garbage. It is the most pathetic thing you've ever seen, to how slow these things are. I think the motor is probably fine. I just need to work on that. Need to work on the stereo and the dashboard. There's a couple dashboard things that are kind of messed up. Need to fix those. yeah, and then there's need to reupholster one of the seats. Need to, yeah, whole bunch of stuff. So stay tuned. Those will be in the episodes coming up.